It's part of reading the city, if you will. You go through and you can see these different periods of time and the different people that had their impact on it. And some of those buildings individuals may like more than others, and that's going to vary from individual to individual. But you know, if you imagine the whole city done in one style, it could be fairly monotonous. Maybe one person would be extremely happy with the outcome, but probably a lot of people would perhaps miss the variety. So it's definitely good to have a mix.
I think what I enjoy about the job is to be able to go out there and talk to people who are doing right by their historic buildings. They're bringing them back into use. They've got a vision, they've got a dream, and they want to see it happen. And I enjoy being the sort of that bridge, because the council's aims for heritage and needs are very similar to property owners' aims out there. So if we can minimise conflict there and pick up problems early on, that's something I really enjoy, and just moving the way forward on it.
My name's Matt McKinley. I work at Oakwood Properties. I'm a commercial property manager and operations manager. Well, Dunedin has so much heritage stock, it's kind of hard to miss it. It was also an early on, our founding chairman, it was a target of his to get some George Street heritage buildings that he could sort of nurture and look after and take into the future. So that's exactly what's happening. The old European Hotel, which is on the corner of Bath Street and George Street, it's been fully re-strengthened and fully tenanted as well, both commercial and residential. So before we did the work, it was an old nightclub, pretty local haunt for a lot of people, and it needed a bit of work. So yeah, we got good project managers in and a lot of steel in there, and it's looking great now. Brand new paint job, you know. So it's that mix of old and new as well. I would talk about the Edinburgh Way, which is the sort of north end of George Street, near the Robbie Burns Hotel. And then you've got Johnson's Fish Shop next to it, which has a great brickwork facade that we restored a couple of years back, which has got good recognition, and it looks fantastic as well. It's definitely one of the feature pieces of the portfolio. And then there's obviously a lot of work about to go into the Robbie Burns to get that strengthened and do some development there. We're working on one of our oldest buildings in the portfolio at the moment on the corner of Hope and Princess Street. Just needs some facade work. I was actually talking to our founding chairman the other day, and he was saying back in the 70s, you know, it was about making old buildings look new, and then that's now flipped, that you want old buildings to look old but have all the new features. So it's a shift in the mindset, and we're adapting with that, and it makes for interesting discussions around what you can do and what you should do. At Oakwood, we're not just about preserving the architectural features of the buildings and also the investment potential side, which is a factor. There's also preserving that Dunedin cultural side of things, which is important. It's hard to replicate and start from scratch when there's so many people connected to these buildings, and they all. It's a form of ownership. It's a different type of ownership, but they are invested in, and they want to see these things carry on, which is what we're kind of here talking about, isn't it? So when the work's done at the Robbie Burns, we'll look forward to opening up to the public, and they'll be pretty excited with the old and the new, the mix of the two, and what we've done there. So it's a pretty exciting project. 32 George Street was retail space, and then we decided to put the strengthening work in. It's a three phases to it. We've completed one, and we've got the retail tenant in there, we're both really happy. It's sort of the jewel of our retail spaces, to be honest. It's got the nice exposed brick. You can see the steel in there. It looks strong, it is safe, and it looks fantastic from an aesthetic point of view, and the tenant's really happy and we're really happy. So it's sort of that, what you sort of hope for as a property group, that you get a tenant who comes to you with an idea of what they want to do, and then we can facilitate that, and then it preserves the building, improves it, and then we've got a tenant fully functioning in there, running a really great business in Dunedin. So it's a win-win for everyone. So upstairs we'll do a residential component. They're always queues to take those spaces, so it's a great idea. And then next door is a jewellers as well, so we'll move into that shortly. At the moment, yeah, Dunedin's been fantastic. There's a bit of a mini boom happening in Dunedin at the moment. We were full just a wee while ago. There's been a few changes since then, but I moved back from Sydney 2 years ago and sort of expected things to be maybe sluggish back here, but it hasn't. It's been a really exciting time with all the warehouse redevelopment, warehouse precinct redevelopment, the street art stuff that's going on. Like, there's all these really exciting things. I've got mates who've moved down here for jobs, living in buildings like the Staveley building in there, who are like, man, we didn't even know about this place, you know? You can walk to work and live in these like beautiful buildings, and it's affordable and everything. Like, there's something really exciting happening down here at the moment, and it's cool to be part of it. The challenges involved with these buildings is that they're old, we know that, they're heritage buildings, so, and you're scratching back the layers and you don't know what you're going to find, and you can sort of do the best plans and everything, and then you pull a layer off and you find something you didn't expect to be there. And then you've got to adapt and move with that, and then you're also communicating with the tenant and bringing them in to see that they've seen what we're seeing, and we might have to tweak this and change that, or it might provide new opportunities, which is also a great option, that there's things you didn't expect to find. You might find some real character behind a layer that at the time wasn't trendy, wasn't, you know, the fad at the time, but now is something we really want to sort of polish off and bring back. So you don't know what's behind each wall or behind each floor, underneath each floor, so it's great to, it's challenging at times, but it's also rewarding. It's going back to that quality factor, that these buildings were built to last, as the documentary sort of refers to, and we want them to continue to last, and they look fantastic if you do it right. And there's almost that competition around Dunedin with all these developers and people who are really invested in this, who can pull off the best thing and the best development, and it's a real jewel in your portfolio. There's also the council doing great things, running the Heritage Awards, where they recognise the hard work that so many people are putting in, and that's great to just bring it to light and shine a light on it and say, you know, these people are doing that, and just get a real feel for what's happening around the place, and you want to be part of that. How could you not? And so Oakwood's pretty committed to being at that table and being involved in these projects. On George Street, you look up, because most people walk along the street and there's the big verandas and balconies, and you don't really look up, you're kind of stuck in your way and sort of doing whatever jobs or errands you're running, and then to just walk along and sort of look up and see that brickwork and that facade and go, wow, there's some really talented masons and tradesmen around this city, and it connects you to that. It's exciting, and sort of you realise, yeah, you're just one chapter in many of the story of the building, and it's our turn to sort of write that chapter and make it a good story.
Join us in celebrating the revitalised warehouse precinct, where the past is Dunedin's future, and where today, thanks to the inspiration and efforts of enthusiastic building owners, we're working to revitalise the warehouse precinct and give this area a new lease on life, using these buildings for innovative new businesses, commercial and residential spaces. Dunedin's warehouse precinct, where the past is Dunedin's future. The Terminus Apartments, where heritage meets modern sophistication and where the past is Dunedin's future. These 1 or 2 bedroom apartments are fitted with modern amenities, room to move and spectacular harbour and city views. Contact us now to have your piece of luxury. 135 Cumberland Street is a brand new recently listed Category 1 heritage building right in Dunedin's warehouse precinct. Only a short walk to the Octagon in the central city. These are warm, well-insulated, self-contained apartments with all you need for a short or long stay. With beautiful views onto the harbour, these Airbnbs at 135 Cumberland Street come highly recommended for your stay in Dunedin.
I bought the building for a whole $20,000, so you know, it kind of met all expectations when you buy something for that kind of price. So it's been a tough project, falling down ceilings. It was essentially a dangerous building and very earthquake prone. It would have had an earthquake rating of less than 10%, and my engineer said it was actually imminent of collapse. It's been abandoned for about 35-40 years, so essentially it hasn't been used much in my lifetime. But prior to that, 1990 it was used briefly as an auction clearinghouse. And if you go right back, the NMA, which is the National Mortgage Company Agency of New Zealand, they had it for quite a number of years, and it was used as I understand, a data processing room. And prior to that, it was Union Steamship Company storage room. We built these diaphragm floors on top of them, so it's almost like 2 floors on top of each other. The existing floors hold the whole thing together horizontally, and the diaphragm floors hold the whole thing together laterally. So the roof is a diaphragm, and each of the floors has a diaphragm on it. It's 3 stories. We stripped the building back to its original yellow colour. We had a grey plasterer, a guy called Kenny Evans, who has been diligently going through and filling up the cracks and putting a skim coating of very similar colour over the top of it. By putting a plaster coating on it, you kind of get that restorative look rather than a refurbished look. So I think it's going to have that texture and that feel that they originally intended with the original plaster. I found a contractor that had a bit of experience of dealing with these sorts of things. It needed some serious gear in it to sort of hold it up while it was being strengthened and propped up. These boys had the experience and skills to be able to deliver on that.
We're standing on the top of the scaffolding on a lovely Dunedin day. There's not a breath of wind. You can see down the harbour basin, which is just fantastic. You can understand why the Union Steamship Company plonked their building here before the fact that the ships would have been right up into the harbour basin. But look, it's on the top now. The top is the most important part, and it's the reason why the building was in such a derelict state. You know, there was an old asbestos roof on top of this building, which had a very small parapet spouting. The parapet spouting blocked, simply blocked, and nobody bothered to do any maintenance. But then leaked, flowed back into the building. The building was abandoned probably in the late 80s. I personally did all the demolishing myself. I started on Christmas Day last year, sent my wife and kids to Canada, and was in there wrecking the thing, pulling the ceilings down, getting covered in filth. You know what, you're going to probably think I'm a psycho saying this, but I really enjoyed the demolishing work. You know, it was just really physical, it was really filthy, you know, I'd come in there, it was like therapy, you know, you go in there and just wreck stuff. You know, so I bought a brand new sledgehammer to start this whole project with. It doesn't look brand new now, but it was just great fun. All the interesting things falling out of the walls, we found old historical bottles, a map of New Zealand from 1910 from the onboard guide to the Union Steamship Company, Intercoastal Services. And inside that map is a map of the South Island. And the South Island at that time was called the Middle Island. Very interesting. The ground floor, so you walk into the building and it's fantastic. There's a fantastic beam there. It's a hand-riveted double I-beam of considerable size. So the ground floor is going to be a concreted floor, and the concrete's going to be tied to walls. There's going to be one apartment downstairs, and the rest is going to be storage for all the apartments. So every apartment will have its own storage. The apartments are kind of designed for couples and single people, but they'll be quite high end, so you know, you'll get in there and you'll feel very relaxed and very warm, very quiet. And finally, you reach the third floor, which is a commercial space. That's going to be rented by Cumberland Developments, who are a software engineering company, software and hardware engineering company, high-tech software engineering company. That are based next door. So the fire ceiling is 2 layers of jib, two layers of fire jib. There's a layer of insulation, R3.2, and then there's about 600 millimeters of distance between the floor, both for acoustic control and also for fire. The walls, as you go up the lift, there's special acoustic control jib that we've used. 2 sheets of that. There's actually 2 separate walls, which are also going to be packed full of insulation, and the lift shaft is going to be a double line piece of fire jib, so 46 millimeters of jib plus insulation, so sound and fire will not get through. On the very back of the wall, I'm contemplating doing a mural which is designed by my father. It's a sort of a seagull kind of theme. I think it looks really fantastic what he's done. In this particular build, and I think everyone is different, so but in this particular case, you know, I ended up with 4 walls, bit of a roof, foundations, some windows which were half okay for the less than the price of a car, like 20 grand. And you know, there's real opportunity there to sort of, and a real challenge there to go, well, okay, now that you've got this thing, what are you going to do with it? And actually pressing the go button and committing. You know, once you're committed, you've really got to go. So at the end of the day, I like a challenge. I think that's the thing. And I'm very competitive in New Zealand. I like to set myself goals. I like committing to them, and I like seeing them through, and I like being successful. I guess talking about a bit of an A-type personality, but certainly that's what drives me. And this building is a real challenge. There's no disputing that. It's been a challenge all the way through on many different parts. Not so much in the challenge in the word that it's stressful, but just challenging. Committing to something like this is certainly within my character to do this sort of thing. And I just want to see it through, and I want to do a good job, and I want to leave a legacy for the town. I mean, the warehouse precinct is a nationally significant historical precinct, along with the railway station, the prison, the courthouse when it gets finished. These things, you've also got Toitū Museum and the old transport hub used to be there as well. And these things are all kind of connecting people onto a bit of a trail, a walking trail, to view these sites. And so they are very important for the city, and they will bring people to the town, which I think is also really important for the Dunedin's economy. It's important. It's an important building, and it's a nationally important building as well. And you've got to do it right, and people need to drive past and look at it. They need to know that we've actually, I think I feel a sense of responsibility to the public at large, because at the end of the day, it's going to be here longer than I am. There's a hiatus of doing them because my wife would probably kill me if I do another one.
135 Cumberland Street is a brand new, recently listed Category 1 heritage building right in Dunedin's warehouse precinct. Only a short walk to the Octagon in the central city. These are warm, well-insulated, self-contained apartments with all you need for a short or long stay. With beautiful views onto the harbour, these Airbnbs at 135 Cumberland Street come highly recommended for your stay in Dunedin. Join us in celebrating the revitalised warehouse precinct, where the past is Dunedin's future, and where today, thanks to the inspiration and efforts of enthusiastic building owners who are working to revitalise the warehouse precinct and give this area a new lease on life, using these buildings for innovative new businesses, commercial and residential spaces. Dunedin's warehouse precinct, where the past is Dunedin's future. The Terminus Apartments, where heritage meets modern sophistication and where the past is Dunedin's future. These 1 or 2 bedroom apartments are fitted with modern amenities, room to move and spectacular harbour and city views. Contact us now to have your piece of luxury.
I'm Peter Porteous, one of the directors of Oakley Gray Architects. We're an established firm in Dunedin. We've been around under various names since the 1930s. We do a wide range of work from residential through to commercial, institutional, but one of our specialties is heritage related work. In years gone by, we're responsible for the railway station upgrade, the Regent Theatre redevelopment, Port Chalmers Town Hall, the library, and many other heritage buildings. Recently we've done a new medical centre and rest home in Tapanui for West Otago Health. That was a culmination of a 10-year fundraising campaign by the community, so amazing. Once the building was completed, there was a big opening ceremony, and there was about 500 people came from all around. There was a big ceremony, people got to walk through it for the first time, and that was very satisfying, hearing people's comments, how amazed they were by the building. Heritage buildings, working on them, they're very complicated buildings. They're often in a state of disrepair. There are often little or no existing drawings. So the first thing you do is you have to do a very detailed measure up and put it onto the computer. You need to perhaps take some invasive testing, like going into walls, try to find out first what the wall is made of, because you can measure both sides of the wall and find out that it's that thick, but until you get in there, you're kind of guessing what it's actually made of. Selwyn College, which is one of the two oldest university halls of residence, we started to look in detail at the Whitehead building. It had a lot of compliance issues, needed structural strengthening. They also had a desire to increase the number of beds there. So we were able to design in the roof space, put another floor, then put a lift into the building and a new big staircase. One of the things about heritage buildings which are not so good is that they're pretty much cold because they usually don't have insulation in them. So we took the opportunity to put insulation around all the walls and between the rooms. Probably the biggest challenge with this one is that all the work had to be done over the summer break, very tight time frame. So in addition, there's all the other issues which come with heritage buildings, so it's pulling off walls and discovering new things there. The structural engineer, which is Steve McKnight on this one, he had to be involved fairly closely. The new work that we did, we would try to be sympathetic to the existing materials. When working with heritage buildings with design work, there's two strategies. There's either to contrast the new with the old, or to take your cues from the old and sort of match in where you can. One we're working on at the moment, which is in construction, is a two-storey brick building in 97 Frederick Street. It's recently been bought by new owners who are turning it back into accommodation, restoring all the heritage features. The owner is simultaneously very interested in, loves heritage buildings, old buildings. He is also very keen on sustainability. So we've got photovoltaic cells all over the roof, which are powering the underfloor hydronic underfloor system. When you come into the main entrance, there are a couple of existing very nice stained glass windows both sides. So we've commissioned Peter Mackenzie, who is a very good stained glass maker in Dunedin, and he's produced some amazing new glass works which are being put into the building. You basically have three layers. You have your stained glass in the middle, and then both sides of that you have a sheet of polycarbonate, which from all intents and purposes looks like glass, but it's very hard, and it fulfills the function of both protecting the glass and also giving extra sort of thermal insulation. All through the main entry we're putting Victorian tessellated tiles, which are the very small tiles which build up to make patterns, which people will be aware of from some of the older buildings around town. The client will give you the brief, say what he or she wants the building to include, then do the design, then immediately get a costing, an estimate done by a quantity surveyor, because it's very important. You watch some of these shows on television, the design programs where they focus on somebody who's doing a building, and there's huge cost overruns, and it's a drama which is good for television but not good for the owners. If during construction, which is when a lot of that stuff is discovered, each time something new is discovered, there has to be a decision made around it, whether you just remove it, or if it's something which has got a value, something that looks beautiful and adds to the story of the building, then obviously everybody will want to retain it. So then you'll have to try to work out how to retain it. But the heritage work in Dunedin I particularly enjoy because they're just such great buildings to be in, and people get so much satisfaction and joy from being in them. They're really part of the community. I mean, working on the Regent Theatre job, which was a it's almost 5 years from start to finish. We got so much satisfaction working, during the process, working with all the people involved, and at the end of it, seeing the finished result and just hearing all the wonderful feedback from people. So yeah, it's just Oakley Gray. I think we just love working with heritage work. Heritage buildings, they tell a history of the city. They have memories attached to them. Your grandfather will remember that building and he'll tell stories. When the buildings disappear, sometimes the memories disappear.